Hey, before we get started, we just want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Church Sound Made Simple. Mixing sound seems complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Cut the overwhelm by getting access to the stress-free, no-fluff training that will help you create great sound at church. Visit churchsoundmadesimple.com. Well, welcome to the Collaborate Worship Podcast, where we help you create great sound at church. I'm your host, Cade Young, and today I'm joined by Christian Nuckels. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Cade. Dude, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, and I'm really glad that you're with us, and I know our listeners will be too. But before we get started, let me tell y'all a little bit about Christian. He started leading worship at age 15, and even started a band back then called 6 Foot Midget. Perfect name for a teenage band, right? Christian, you have to tell us where that name came from.
Yeah, so that was my ska band. In 1999, I started with some of my friends a Christian ska band, and that was not our original name, but we didn't like our original name. There were other bands with the name. Our name was Flipside originally, Flipside Ska. There were other bands in town with that same name, other bands all around the world with that same name, probably. And so a friend of mine was in algebra class with me one morning, and we were just coming up with silly band names that were oxymoronic in nature. And, 300-pound wuss and stuff we did stuff like that. And 6 Foot Midget was one of the ones that he actually came up with. This guy was not in the band at all or anything. And so I stole that and brought it to like band practice. I was like, guys, 6 Foot Midget. And somehow it stuck, or they voted, and somehow that became our name. And yeah, we were together till 2003 and did a lot of fun things. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, although 6 Foot Midget is no longer together, Christian has still been songwriting ever since, and has even shared the stage with some bands like Thousand Foot Krutch and sonicFLOOD. That's awesome, man. You're currently the worship leader at BattleCreek Church, and your most recent album, Alive and Free, was released just last year, and it's available everywhere. So I got to ask you, man, why are you so passionate about writing songs?
Well, I've been writing songs since I was, a kid, really. I wrote a song for my youth group talent show when I was like 13. It was the first time I ever played a guitar and sang on a stage. We were trying to do a fundraiser for youth camp, and everybody did these different numbers, and I wrote this song about my grandpa who had died, and I guess it touched the heart of a lot of people. I really don't remember how the song went. It was probably terrible, but I remember that was just a really cathartic experience for me, and found myself writing songs for school projects. And if you had to do an oral report, I had some cool teachers that would let me write a song instead. Instead of giving an oral report, all through high school. And I always loved playing music and would write songs as part of my daily life. And as I got older, started to realize kind of the power of that, and that there was actually some merit to communicating my thoughts and ideas and struggles through music. And obviously when 6 Foot Midget formed, I had an outlet for that was new and semi-professional, and people actually would listen and dance to our songs, and it was fun. And when that band ended, started writing more acoustic stuff, more dashboard confessional kind of stuff, kind of almost like a acoustic punk rock emo type thing. And that gave me a new outlet that was more serious and less, silly and funny. And eventually shifted into, as a young adult, writing songs for the church. As I went into full-time ministry in 2010, after having taken a good long break from doing any playing out or any music stuff, while my family was getting up and started with my kids and my wife and everything, started writing songs for my church that I started serving in. And that led to God opening all kinds of fun doors. And it's been something that He's really blessed my life with, and really sparked a passion in my heart to write songs for the church.
That's awesome, man. And while you were talking about that, you actually just reminded me that I wrote a song once for my wife when we got married, for her to walk down the aisle to.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, my uncle actually always makes fun of me because there's a line in the song that says, "I've been waiting all my life for you." And we got married when we were 18.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So definitely threw some cliche words in there that didn't really make
Yes. It's so funny because like I'll listen back to my old stuff, just for fun. And I'm probably the only person in the world that listens to my old stuff. But those albums that I did when I was, with 6 Foot Midget, I was probably 19, 20 years old. My first solo EP was when I was probably 21 years old. I got married when I was 22 years old. And, we're talking early 2000s. And here we are now. It's 2020. I'm 38 years old. I've got 3 kids. I've been married for almost 16 years. And I listen back to those songs and the ideas that were in those songs. And I'm just like, was so dumb and immature. And I had no idea what life was about or love or God or anything, So it's funny how your perspective changes, because when you're in the middle of it, you're like, oh yeah, this song, man, it's so cool and it's so good and smart and clever, And you look back on it and you're like, what a moron kid I was when I wrote this song. So just keep that in mind when you write songs now. 20 years from now, you won't really think they're all that great, probably.
Yeah, because of the blessed internet, that lives on forever, right?
It lives on forever. Yes, it lives on forever.
Your kids can make fun of you whenever they're adults.
That's right. Yeah, dude. And they totally will. Yes. My daughter already makes fun of me and my old stuff. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well,
and my current stuff.
Yeah, she still makes fun of the new stuff too, huh?
Yes, she does.
Kids will tell you. Well, man, in every podcast interview, we always like to take a moment to bring a failure out into the open so we can laugh together and learn something along the way, because the truth is we all make mistakes and they all seem really heavy until we realize that even the pros out there make mistakes. So, Christian, mess up. Tell us an embarrassing story.
Well, gosh, when I saw that we would be talking about this, my wheels started turning, because it's a long list, Cade. A long list. I started leading worship as a worship pastor in 2007, as a bivocationally, and since then, I mean, I have so many to choose from. I think I'll choose a fresh one, a relatively fresh one. Last year, we walked in, so I serve at BattleCreek Church, our Owasso campus. I'm the worship pastor here at our Owasso campus. I've been here a couple of years, and last year, we walked in Sunday morning, and we're just ready to go, turn everything on, and someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, Christian, the visuals computer for ProPresenter, it won't turn on." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Just give me a second. I'll go take a look at it." And I'm talking to my band and getting things set up, and how was your day? And just kind of being casually nonchalant, thinking, oh, they probably just don't know how to turn on a computer or something. No, I mean, obviously they do, but in my head, I'm like, this is not an emergency. Well, it was an emergency. And 10 minutes go by, and they're like, "Hey, dude, it's not turning on." And I'm like, okay. So I go back and I look. I think that I somehow have the magic touch and can press the button in the right way to turn the computer on. It will not turn on. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was a power outage or if there was some update that happened that somehow failed in the middle of the night. All I know is that Wednesday night we had rehearsal. Everything was great. Sunday morning we walked in and this visuals computer is bricked. And so the panic buttons in my head start going off, right? And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And our visual system is like super complicated. It's got like the computer goes into a switching machine in a rack, and it's got all these drivers set up on it to make it all work correctly and be configured correctly with this black magic zippity doo-dah that I don't even really know all of the ins and outs of, right? And so I grab my laptop. I know I have a backup of the show on my laptop, right? Or of my ProPresenter files backed up to the cloud. I grab my laptop, I open up ProPresenter, and I forget the fact that, okay, it doesn't have all the drivers to plug into the main system. So I tell everybody, I'm like, grab the portable TVs from the student area, get 2 portable TVs, the HDMI splitter, 2 long HDMI cables, and there's a brand new song this week. Oh, we can't do that song this time. So we're going to do this other song instead. And so I switch out a song in the set. All of this happening with about 20 minutes until the service starts. Okay. And so we get everything set up. I get a guy off the side of the stage running the visuals from my laptop. And this particular guy, his name's Terry. He's a wonderful dude. And it was his first Sunday serving as a visual producer. And this happens.
Of course.
Yeah. So he's never run ProPresenter before in his life. Because we automate all of our lyrics with Ableton, and ain't none of that happening now. Right. So, and then in the middle of it all, because we switched from this new song to What a Beautiful Name, my keyboard player thought that we were doing What a Beautiful Name in the key that the other song was in, instead of this key that Beautiful Name is in, D or something, right? And so she starts coming in the wrong key, and the tracks are in the other key, and we're all in the other key, and we have to kill tracks, and that really could have been on Worship Fails. Like, it totally is meme worthy. It was awful. It's the only time that I've been here that we've had anything close to that happen. It was bad. And so it's just amazing how one key component of your system going wrong can cause you to change so many other factors in your set, and you make these decisions based on the information you have, but it's like a domino effect. And so that was my epic fail of probably the last 3-4 years. It was terrible. So a similar thing happened Easter of 2018 at my last church. We walked in. This was a portable church, a couple thousand people or whatever, Easter Sunday morning, and the projector is dead. And we literally have to, it's a portable church. We can't do anything. It's Sunday morning. This $30,000 projector is dead. So we have to pull a couple TVs from the student area and use that for our visuals. It was awful. So I don't know. It just happens.
It does. It sounds like you guys just need an overhead projector as backup, with some transparencies, like the old school.
That's exactly what we need. And then we can just write the chords above the words.
Perfect.
And then it doesn't matter. You know exactly what key you're supposed to be in. So
yep. I love it, man.
Yes, dude. What's so funny is, I think it's kind of sad. We have a whole generation, actually a couple generations removed now, that will never know the transparency overhead projector setup and how far we've come. So
maybe we should post some pictures in the show notes just so that the young people know what we're talking about here.
What I want to know is, this is the crazy thing. We had hymnals, right, with sheet music inside of them. And someone said one day, you know what? We want to do something totally groundbreaking and different. We're going to get an overhead projector, which looks like garbage. But they had to say it's worth it to do this song by Keith Green. We got to have that overhead projector. Dude, I would rather just print out pages with lyrics on them than do an overhead projector, right?
Right.
I don't know. It's crazy. It's like, oh wait, let me move my science class notes over. Here's our chord chart for today.
I would have liked to be the switcher back then, taking those transparencies off and on.
Oh man, the key is you got to make sure you have that piece of paper so you can reveal the words one at a time.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That's pro level.
There's an art to it. That's pro level. So
good stuff, man. All right, so let's talk about songwriting for worship. Because I've heard a lot of worship leaders over the years who want to write songs, and some of them have already written songs, but they have no idea what to do next. So I'm glad you're here with us so you can help us sort these things out. So what would you say to all the aspiring songwriters out there? Should they press into this journey?
Yes, absolutely. I would say, if for no other reason than your own personal spiritual development, yes, press into the journey. I think that there's no doubt. You just look at Spotify and the number of songs, worship songs alone, that are uploaded to Spotify every day. It's, in the thousands. And there is an awakening, a whole new Renaissance era that we're living in of people writing songs for the church. And technology obviously has aided that tremendously, but also people having permission, I think, has really helped too. We've seen churches large and small and every size in between have a bard, so to speak, or a psalmist, so to speak. God lays something on their heart. They have talent, and they can actually rally their team around them and write a song for their church that's actually enjoyable And then it becomes a part of that church's unique hymnology. And so there are so many benefits to it. It builds community. It helps you with your spiritual development and your relationship with God. I definitely would say do it. Go for it.
Awesome. And you kind of answered this question already, but maybe you can expand on it a little bit more. But is it okay to write songs that are just like for my church, or are the only songs worth writing the ones that hit the masses?
Well, I definitely would say it is okay to write songs that are just for your church. In fact, every single professional, quote unquote, professional worship songwriter, if you ask them, what do I do next? What do I do next? They say, dude, don't worry about what you do next. Write songs for your church. Write songs for your church. Do not sit down in your office or wherever you are, your living room, and say, okay, I'm going to put pen to paper and write the next How Great Is Our God, or whatever the, insert name of mega hit here, right? I'm going to write the next Oceans right here. And there's a lot of reasons that advice is given from professionals. First of all, the world's already got that song. The world's already got How Great Is Our God. And guess what else? God wants you to sing songs to him. It's not about mega hits at all. And then it's also virtually impossible for your song to ever even get on the radio or TV or whatever it takes to become a mega hit. So yeah, just write songs for your church. I will say this, in order for that to happen though, you do need to develop your craft and you need to develop your songwriting community around you. Don't go at it alone and operate in a vacuum. I made that mistake for years. And guess what? At the end of the day, when you work on it by yourself, guess who's the only person who cares about it? You. So the more people you have involved in, you got to keep it to people you trust. But I would say if you can get a core group of 2 or 3 or 4 other songwriters, maybe they're within your worship team. Maybe you bring your pastor in to help you with like the theological content of some lyrics, because guess what? You bring your pastor in on a song, all of a sudden it's not just about the worship team. Now it's his ability to breathe life into it from his standpoint. And a lot of times senior pastors and preaching pastors are great lyricists, much better than you probably. And they know the Bible inside and out. I mean, I would assume. So, I would encourage you to, that's what I would encourage you to do is get other eyes on it, get other people in that writing room with you. Read some books, read Writing Worship by Chrissy Nordoff, a great book about writing songs for your church. And then talk to your pastor, have a communication with your pastor. What does our church need to be singing right now, or 6 months from now? Really, 6 months from now, what's your sermon series going to be about? Is it about tithing? Let's write a song about tithing. He'll love that. No, I'm just kidding. Seriously, are we doing a song about unity, right? Are we doing a sermon about, Daniel in the lion's den, right? Let's write a song that kind of uses some of that language from Daniel. Like my church is in a Daniel series right now. And, so we're doing a lot of fun songs like Another in the Fire, it really helps us connect the dots. I would say, yes, definitely write songs for your church with the blessing of your pastor and with the help of your team.
So going back to the assembling the team thing that you were just talking about, like writing with a team, what does your team look like?
Gosh, man. So I'm in such a weird, different kind of place now. I'm a really outgoing guy. You know that about me, Cade, because we met, last week, and I already feel like you're my brother.
You came in with lots of energy.
Yeah, man. That's how I roll.
Yep.
Freaks a lot of people out. But I would say I just try to meet as many people as I can within these circles, not just within the context of my church, because where I serve now, we have 6 campuses here in Tulsa alone, 2 overseas. We have an army of musicians within the church and lots of resources. And we write as a group of worship pastors together. But then on the other side of that, I write with a lot of people outside of my church, just friends that I've met that I respect as songwriters and that I know write good music. Zoom we've all been forced this through this pandemic to learn how to use Zoom. Zoom can be a really powerful tool for songwriting. Just open a Google Doc. Both of you are on it. Get on Zoom with somebody. And don't be afraid to reach out to somebody too. If you admire their work, just, what's the worst they can say? Sorry, all my co-writes are done through my publisher right now. I can't do a co-write with you. Sorry. Or maybe someday. But you don't have to have someone just in your town or in your church to co-write with. But my team, my worship team, here at this particular campus, we don't necessarily write songs together as a team, but I'll use songwriting at my campus as a discipleship opportunity. So, for example, one guy here on our campus brought a song to me because he's really passionate about groups, and we have a value here at BattleCreek that life is better together. That's one of the things we say all the time. Life is better together. And boy, do we believe that this year more than ever. And so he brought a song last year called Better Together. And this, he came in self-admittedly like, hey, I'm not a performance-ready guitar player or singer or whatever, but God put this song in my heart. And he brought the lyrics in, showed me what it was all about. And we sat down for a couple hours and did a co-write. And at the end of it, had a kind of a cool song that could even be almost like sort of like a commercial for groups, saying that life is better together. And so, in a sense, now that gentleman's a part of my team as well. And so I have dozens and dozens of people that I co-write with. I try to do at least one co-write a week. Sometimes it's more like 2 or 3. And that's with people everywhere from, Minnesota and Michigan, Ohio, Florida, Virginia, DC, Nashville, and just people that we've been able to write together. So it's an ever-growing team,
What about when it comes time to lay down those instrumental tracks? Is that a different team that you call upon, or do you use your church worship band? Like, how does that go down?
Well, for me, it's been do whatever it takes to get it done. And it's changed with every project that I've been a part of. It's ever evolving. You use the tools that you have at the time that you make the thing. That's just kind of how I've always operated. I've had the honor of releasing almost, I guess, 60 songs on Spotify, iTunes, and all that over my career. And every single one of those projects was a different mix of people and a different situation. So take, for example, Grace Rising. Grace Rising was an album that I did with my worship team when I was in Arlington, Virginia, in the DC area. I was there for about 4 years at that church, and we released 2 albums. And so the first album was a studio album. I used almost everyone on the worship team to do that record. Our producer for live audio at that church, his main bread and butter job was he owned a studio. And so we went into his studio and the church paid him, and we did that record utilizing those musicians at the church. And the second album we did was a live acoustic album where we did 5 or 6 songs acoustically from that studio album and retracked everything just in various different venues as we could. Here at BattleCreek, when BattleCreek Collective does a song, we have a guy named Ryan Crawford who acts as our producer. It's kind of his job to figure out who plays what, and so he usually does the drums and bass and things like that. But then, as far as electric guitar, we've got a guy named Brandon Autry that's just a killer electric guitar player, and he'll play on that. So some stuff, I've done everything myself. I've tracked all the instruments myself. I like the fact that we live in a world where you can have a computer and you can pick from a lot of different audio workstation programs like Logic or GarageBand even, which is super cheap. I like to use Reason, like we were talking about earlier. I'm a Reason user. I'm like the only guy in the world that uses Reason, but it's really, really cool. And you don't have to have a Pro Tools setup and a crazy studio setup to make quality audio recordings anymore. you also don't have to live in the same place as everybody else to make quality audio recordings anymore. My band Forever Again is an indie rock band. We put out an album in July of this year. Well, that band is a duo between me and my friend Chris Wetterman. I live here in Tulsa. Chris Wetterman lives in DC, and so like he went to a studio with a studio drummer and the drummer drummed everything. Chris played all the bass. Chris played all the electric stuff. I programmed a bunch of the keyboard stuff and did all the vocals. I sent him all my stuff. We sent it all to the mixing house. They mixed it. They sent it to the mastering house. They mastered it. You don't have to live in the same place. So it's just you use the tools you have. If you have an iPad, one of my songs, Guard My Heart, I recorded the whole thing on an iPad, and then sent it to get mixed and mastered. Does it sound the very best of anything I've released? No, it does not. But, you just keep in mind that if the song is decent, you can find a way. I think the key is building relationships and always being thirsty for more knowledge as far as, how do I get this accomplished?
Yeah, man, I love that you mentioned like just use whatever resources you have available at the time, because I know a lot of people just get stuck with like, I don't have the same band that I used to have, or I don't have the band that I want to have just yet, and so they stop songwriting. So that's cool.
Well, and keep in mind the process here. Like on a professional level, you have writers that are employed by publishing companies that go in a back room with other people and write a song or whatever over 3 hours. They come out of that with a song, and if it's worth anything, then maybe the publishing company will put together a demo of that song, right? And using studio musicians that have never had anything to do with writing any of it, right? And then if they get a demo that they can actually pitch to an artist, then an artist might actually cut the thing. And then that's a whole different thing, right? So like, I think the important thing is just separating out. People get so close to their art. And when you write a song, you have to think, is this just a song for just me and the Lord? There are a lot of songs that I've written that are just for me and God. No one else is ever going to hear them. And I just sing them to Him. And I'm never going to record them. I just sing them to Him every day. There are some songs that are just for me and a few people, or just for me and my wife. I released a song earlier this year called My Happy Ending. And it's a song I wrote for my wife on our anniversary. And I had my daughter do the cover art for it, so it's really special to me and my wife and my daughter and no one else in the world, right? It has like 3,000 or 4,000 plays. Like it's nothing, compared to what it could be on Spotify. It's not about commercial viability. Is it just a song for this room that I'm in with this few hundred people or whatever at church for just a time as this, right? Some people in the church world, they'll play a song on Sunday morning, record it right there. Like a lot of audio consoles have recording built in. So just record it to a thumb drive, I think that's the key, is just figuring out what is this song for and sending it out accordingly,
Yep, good stuff. So I think a lot of people, they get stuck somewhere along the process and maybe just kind of give up. Is there a part of the songwriting process that you tend to get stuck like that and want to give up, that you have to press through?
Well, I'm a really persistent guy. And, on projects of any kind, I like to stick with it until it's done. In fact, I don't like leaving a project until it's done. On the Enneagram, I'm a type 3, 4-wing, and 3s, we're the achievers. We want to do the project and be the best at it, and and get our achievement done, so that we can be important. And so I try actually really hard not to get stuck. In fact, I cut corners not to get stuck. That's the downfall of a 3, right? And that's where songwriting with other people becomes so important. So I don't write any songs just by myself hardly ever anymore. My last worship EP, Alive and Free, 2 of the songs on that 6-song album were written by just me alone. And even those 2 songs, I had people's input and feedback to help craft it along the way, from a few years prior when I started writing the song to when it actually became a song on the internet, right? So every other one was at least a co-write with one other person. And a lot of times we have strengths. Everybody has strengths and personalities. As songwriters, we have strengths. And so my strength is structure and melody. I'm really good with structure and melody. And you can take a songwriter inventory on writingworship.com. You can take like a little survey. It'll tell you what you're best at based on how you write. And I can't speak highly enough about writingworship.com. It's really good. So Christy Nordoff, send me a check for endorsing your thing. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's really changed my life. That's why I believe in it. And so maybe you find someone who's really good with melodic stuff if you're not good with melody. Maybe so I'm a melody guy, but maybe my lyrics aren't as strong. So I need to write with someone who's super good with lyrics, right? And so it helps you not get stuck. It helps you get unstuck. And so if you are stuck on a song, maybe you and another person are stuck on a song. Bring in a third person. Don't be afraid, right? That's what I would recommend.
Better together, right?
Better together, right? We're better together.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think we like to get away in our silos, especially us creative folk, because we don't want anybody intruding on our the thing that we've created. But
yes.
It's always better together. And you find that out once you do jump over your fear of somebody else getting in the process. You're like, oh, well,
yes.
Look at that.
And that being said, that's one of the reasons that I really caution, and anyone that's done a little bit of this will tell you this. When you're writing a song, you're going to record it somehow, whether it's just a voice memo on your phone or whatever. But then there's going to come a point where you like really kind of want to get into it on a computer or something. Make sure you don't spend like this. I made this mistake on a lot of the Grace Rising stuff. Like when I was writing those songs, it was probably 2012, something like that. And I was just getting started on any kind of music production studio type stuff at home. And so I wrote a song called Adopted by the King. And so I wrote this song, Adopted by the King. And I'm like, okay, cool. This song is so good. I'm gonna produce the heck out of this thing. And so I get into my software and I program drums and I program bass and I program strings and I play all the electric guitars and I do all this keyboard arpeggios and stuff. And at the end of it all, I've got a song. It's about 4.5 minutes long. Seems good. I show it to somebody who's a songwriter and they're like, you need to change that line, or you need to change that whole part, dude. You need to take that out and put it somewhere else, or just delete it and write something else there. And I'm like, what do you mean? I can't delete it. I spent 40 hours producing a demo. I can't do that, right? So don't do that. Like if the song isn't done, if you haven't let other people listen to it in its raw form, then don't produce a demo, because the more people you bring into it, the more opinions you're going to have involved. And so make sure that the song is complete before you start demoing it full band.
Man, that's like,
or it's going to crush your dreams. What?
I said that's like a pro tip right there that everybody needs to listen to. It's like,
I guess so.
That minimum viable product is what they'd call it in business. Just ship it, see if people like it before you spend all this time producing it.
Yes. I go to this conference every year, Experience Conference in Orlando. It's an amazing conference. I'm a huge proponent of trying to get people to go to this conference. I try to push people to it because it's such life-changing. Part of the conference is for songwriters is listening panels, and they'll have people like Aaron Rice come and do a listening panel. Aaron Rice wrote Made to Love by Toby Mac. He wrote Good Morning by Mandisa. He's written a bunch of stuff with Hawk Nelson and other people. And Aaron's a pro, man. He's amazing. He'll listen to your song, and people come in with fully produced songs, and he's like, okay, well, you need to change this, and you need to change that, and you need to change this. And you can just see their hopes and dreams dying in their eyes because they spent all this money or time, at least, creating something that now Aaron Rice has just ripped to shreds to make better, Yep.
So good to know. I think the whole podcast was worth that little tidbit right there. That's going to save people some money, and it's going to save them some time and frustration.
Well, it's too late for me, so just save yourself.
All right, man. One more question for you. What's the most budget-friendly way to record a song that still sounds good?
Oh, man. I would say the most budget-friendly way would probably be on your iPad or something like that. Like I said before, the microphones, kind of like the cameras on phones, are so good now. Mm-hmm. The microphones aren't half bad either, really. And with some wizardry and post-production stuff, it actually can sound pretty decent. So I would say, honestly, I would personally not do that again. I did that just because I didn't know any better. I would say if you have a computer that will do GarageBand, like just do GarageBand. And there's a company that makes these things called iRigs, and it's a little tiny, the iRig, Cade, right? You know the iRig. The iRig isn't half bad. I mean, it's a little thing that'll convert from USB to XLR, and you can borrow a microphone from your friend or from your church if your worship leader will let you do that, and plug it straight into your computer or even into your iPad, and all of a sudden now you've got a tool that you can use to record your guitar or your voice in a half decent way. I would say that that's definitely good enough to create a demo. May not be good enough to, create a commercially released song, but it's definitely the most budget-friendly way. It would be some kind of mobile device with an iRig and just a cheap microphone, like a Shure SM58 or a 57 would even work.
Perfect. Have you heard the new MacBook? How it records?
No,
I think it's a 2020 version of it. So me and my brother, we tested it versus, I forget what the model of these mics are called. What are these mics that we're using?
SM7B.
Yeah, SM7B. And so we A and B'd it with the new MacBook and how it records. And you almost couldn't even tell a difference.
Are you serious? Just like the ambient microphone on the computer?
Yeah.
See? So there you go. All you need is $4,000 for a new MacBook Pro.
So if you happen to have the new MacBook Pro, you're in good shape. Just use that.
Well, that's man, right. But yeah,
this was.
I was going to say, this has been really fun. I mean, for listeners at home or whatever, if you are like one step above the cheapest version, I use an interface. What is it? The Focusrite Claret series, and it's not too expensive. You can go on reverb.com or eBay and you can get them used. So just get a $100 interface, even like the Scarlett version, or I think Avid even makes $100 Fast Track Duo or something like that. For $100, you can get an interface that will take your microphone and plug it into your computer in a more legitimate way. If you want to upgrade from GarageBand to Logic, that's a couple $100, but it's well worth it because it gives you a whole lot more tools. Or you can use Reason like cool people like me do. No, I'm just kidding. Really, it's just I don't know any better. I just use Reason because it's what I know. So that's so you're talking maybe $500. You can actually have a legitimate semi-professional setup.
Yep. I use the Focusrite Scarlett on pretty much anything where I only need 2 inputs.
Yes.
It's really some of the best sounding preamps that are out there for $100. It's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Claret wasn't too much more expensive, and it's got 4 dual jacks, 4 preamps on it.
Awesome.
Whatever model that is that has the 4. That's what I have. And it works great.
Sweet, man. Well, Christian, this has been so awesome. Thank you for being with us today. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, you can go to my website, nuckelsmusic.com, and my last name is spelled really weird. It's Nuckels. So Nuckels Music, no K on the front, .com is my website, and you can check out what new music is coming out there. I'm also on Spotify, YouTube, and all those places. And you can also get my music from Alive and Free and Grace Rising on multitracks.com.
Awesome. Well, don't miss this opportunity to connect with Christian Nuckels, and be sure to go check out his album called Alive and Free. You'll find it everywhere, like he said, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you listen to music, on multitracks.com. So you can pull that sucker in and play it at church next Sunday if you want to.
Yeah.
But it's old.
And I highly recommend it.
Well, as always, thanks for being with us. We need your help to get this podcast out to everybody who needs it. So please leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you are using. And don't forget to subscribe so we can let you know when the next episode comes out. Go implement what you learned in this podcast, and we'll catch you next time.